The email from my mother arrived on a Tuesday morning. Auction this Saturday. Lake house finally being dealt with. Family meeting afterward to discuss distributions. Your presence optional but recommended. I stared at the screen, coffee cooling in my hand. The lake house. My lake house. The one I'd bought in 2012 with my first book advance. The one where I'd spent 12 summers writing, watching sunsets from the dock I'd rebuilt myself, listening to loons call across the water at dawn. Foreclosed. That's what my sister Amanda had been telling everyone for 6 months. Posted it in the family group chat. Mentioned it at Thanksgiving. Whispered it to cousins at Christmas. Such a shame. Sarah couldn't keep up with the payments. Bank's taking it. But I'm handling the sale, at least the family can benefit. I'd seen the messages. Read every word. Said nothing. There's a particular psychology to family exploitation that mimics the gambler's fallacy. You keep feeding coins into the slot machine of their approval, convinced that the next spin, the next achievement, the next boundary crossed, the next humiliation endured, will finally trigger the jackpot of genuine love. The machine is designed to keep you playing. The house always wins. I decided to stop playing 18 months ago. The exact moment. Amanda's 40th birthday party at her house in Greenwich. I'd driven 3 hours to attend. Brought a first edition of her favorite childhood book. Something I'd spent 2 months tracking down. Cost me $1,200. She opened it in front of 30 guests. Glanced at the cover. Oh. A book. How appropriate for a writer. Set it on a side table, turned to our mother's gift. A Cartier bracelet. Spent 11 minutes discussing its craftsmanship, holding her wrist to the light, letting friends examine it. The book sat on that table for 3 hours. Someone used it as a coaster. That night, driving home on I-95, windows down, cold November air sharp in my lungs, I made a decision. Not revenge. Something quieter. I would simply stop participating in my own diminishment. I would become a benevolent observer of my own life instead of the supporting character in theirs. The auction was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the Lakeside Inn 10 miles from the property. I didn't plan to attend. Robert Hayes, my caretaker, texted me Thursday. Someone claiming to be property owner showed up with real estate agents. Demanded access. I showed her the gate code changed last month. She threatened to call police. Want me to handle it? Let her make her calls, I replied. Document everything. Robert had been caring for the property since 2013. 72 years old, retired postal worker, lived 2 miles up the shore road. Every Monday, check the winterization, test the sump pump, inspect the dock lines. Every Thursday, mow in summer, plow in winter, clean the gutters twice yearly. $800 monthly, paid automatically from my account. Utilities in my name, paid through autodraft. Property taxes, $18,450 annually, paid in full every January. I'd never missed a payment. Never been late. Never been in financial distress. But I also never corrected Amanda's narrative. There's power in being underestimated. There's freedom in being dismissed. Saturday morning I made the 3-hour drive. Not to the auction. To the lake house itself. Pulled into the long gravel driveway at 1:15 p.m., tires crunching over stones Robert had raked smooth last week. The house stood silent and perfect. Cedar shingles, weathered silver gray green shutters I'd painted 2 summers ago. The dock extending into water so clear you could see the sandy bottom 12 feet down. Robert's truck was already there. He stepped out holding a banker's box. 72 years old, moving with the deliberate care of a man who'd spent 40 years carrying mail in all weather. She's got 7 developers in that room, he said. Told them the property's been abandoned for 2 years. Showed them photos from 2015, before we renovated the boathouse. Claimed she has power of attorney. Does she? No, ma'am. I checked with your lawyer Tuesday. He laughed for 30 seconds straight. I smiled. The maintenance logs? He patted the box. Every Monday and Thursday for 12 years. Dated, photographed, receipts attached. Last entry is from 3 days ago. Replaced the dock cleats on the south side. $240 at the Marine Supply. Good. Let's go. The Lakeside Inn's conference rooms smelled of old carpet and expensive cologne. Through the glass doors I could see them. 7 men in business casual, Amanda at the head of the table wearing a cream suit I recognized from Bergdorf's fall collection. Our mother beside her in navy silk. Our father taking notes like a secretary. The auctioneer, some friend of Amanda's from her country club, stood near a projection screen showing photos of the house. My house. Photos that were 7 years out of date. Gentlemen, final call, the auctioneer said. We have $2.6 million from Mr. Chen. Going once. I opened the door. The room went silent. Not the gentle quiet of a pause, but the vacuum-sealed silence of a tomb. 7 developers turned. Amanda's face went through a fascinating progression. Confusion, recognition, irritation, then something that looked almost like fear. Sarah. My mother's voice had that particular tone she used when I'd done something socially awkward like existing. This is a private auction. For my property, I said. Walked to the table, set my bag down. The leather made a soft sound against the wood. I'm curious what gives you the authority to sell it. Amanda recovered quickly. He always did. The bank gave me authorization. You're 18 months behind on the mortgage. This is a foreclosure sale. I'm trying to help the family recoup something from your financial irresponsibility. Interesting. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, turned the screen toward the developers. Here's my mortgage account. Wells Fargo. Original loan. $680,000 in 2012. Current balance. 0. Paid off completely in March 2024. 14 months ago. Would you like me to forward you the satisfaction of mortgage? One of the developers, Mr. Chen, apparently leaned forward. His pen had stopped moving. That's impossible, Amanda said. Her voice had gone tight. The bank told me. Which bank? Which specific person? What date did they tell you this? Silence. Robert walked in. 72 years old, moving with the calm of a man who'd weathered 40 winters delivering mail. He set the banker's box on the table. Robert Hayes, he said. Property caretaker for 12 years. I maintain the premises every Monday and Thursday. Last visit was Wednesday, May 15th. Replaced the dock cleats on the south side. Prior to that, Monday, May 12th, mowed the lawn, tested the sump pump, cleaned the gutters on the boathouse. He opened the box. Started laying out documents. Here's the maintenance log from May 2024. Photographs dated and GPS tagged. Here's April. Here's March. Here's every month going back to June 2013. Every visit documented. Every repair receipted. The dock repairs completed last month cost $240. Here's the invoice from Bayside Marine Supply. Here's the photo of the completed work. He kept pulling documents. The developers had stopped looking at Amanda. They were watching Robert's hands move. Utilities are current. Here's the electric bill, auto-paid May 1st. Here's the gas bill. Here's the water bill. Property taxes, $18,450 annually. Here's the receipt from January 15, 2025. Paid in full. Here's 2024. Here's 2023. 5 years all paid ahead. One of the developers stood up. Ms. Amanda, you told us this property had been abandoned for 2 years. You told us, another added, that you had power of attorney due to your sister's financial distress. You told us, a third said, his voice very quiet, that this was a legitimate foreclosure sale authorized by Wells Fargo. Amanda's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. There's been a misunderstanding. What's being misunderstood? I asked. Kept my voice level. Curiosity, not anger. You told 7 investors that you had the legal right to sell my property. You collected a $2.6 million bid from Mr. Chen. Did you take deposits? The silence told me everything. How much? I asked. Mr. Chen's jaw was tight. 10%. $260,000. Transferred Thursday. And you've already distributed this money? I looked at Amanda. She'd gone very pale. Our mother had her hand on Amanda's arm, but her face showed a different calculation happening. $400,000 promised to family members. Distributions already made or at least announced. I can show you that too, I said. Pulled out another document. Here's the title. Sarah Morrison, sole owner. No liens. No encumbrances. No co-owners. No authorized agents. Just me. I turned to the developers. Gentlemen, I'm very sorry you've wasted your time. This property has never been for sale. It's not in foreclosure. It's not abandoned. It's my home maintained continuously for 12 years, and I have no intention of selling it. Mr. Chin stood. He was a small man, but his voice filled the room. Ms. Amanda, I will expect my $260,000 deposit returned by Monday. If not, my attorney will file fraud charges. I will also be contacting the other bidders to determine if they were similarly deceived. 3 other developers stood immediately. We paid deposits as well. Amanda made a sound like air escaping. I can explain. No, I said. You can't. Because there's no version of this where you accidentally believed you had the right to sell my house. You created forged documents or misrepresented your authority. You collected money under false pretenses. That's called fraud. In Connecticut, it's a Class B felony if the value exceeds $10,000. You're looking at multiple counts. My father finally spoke. Now, Sarah, there's no need to involve law enforcement. This is a family matter. No, Dad. This stopped being a family matter when Amanda defrauded 7 investors. When she collected deposits totaling, I looked at the developers. Had paid $640,000 under false pretenses. When she promised you and Mom and God knows who else distributions from the sale of my property. I created a document years ago that I called the Ghost Ledger. Not financial, though the numbers were there too. This was an accounting of costs that don't show up on bank statements. I'd been keeping it since I was 16. The Ghost Ledger. Emotional costs non-refundable. High school graduation 2001. Parents' missed ceremony for Amanda's college campus tour. Cost. Milestone memory never recoverable. Book deal announcement 2011. Called Mom crying with joy. She said, "That's nice, honey." Then talked for 40 minutes about Amanda's new curtains. Cost. Shared celebration permanently lost. Father's 70th birthday 2019. I flew in from book tour. Amanda arrived late, talked about her kitchen remodel for 90 minutes. Dad asked me 0 questions about my work. Cost. Paternal interest never existed. Grandmother's funeral 2020. Amanda gave eulogy despite seeing Grandma twice in 10 years. I'd visited monthly but wasn't asked to speak. Cost. Recognition withheld indefinitely. Every family gathering for 25 years. Amanda's achievements celebrated with champagne. Mine met with, how nice, and immediate topic changes. Cost equal worth never granted. The ledger ran 43 pages. I'd never shown it to anyone. But I'd needed to write it down to prove to myself that I wasn't imagining the theft. They'd stolen years of validation. Decades of being seen. A lifetime of matching. You can't get restitution for ghost costs. But you can stop accumulating them. What happens now, I said, is that these gentlemen contact their attorneys. They file complaints with the Connecticut Real Estate Commission. Possibly the FBI, depending on whether Amanda used wire transfers. The state's attorney reviews the evidence and likely files criminal charges. Or, Amanda said quickly, we settle this quietly. I return the deposits. Everyone walks away. No charges. No lawyers. Can you return $640,000 by Monday? I asked. Her silence was the answer. Because I'm guessing you've already spent it. Or promised it. Bought something. Made down payments. Told Mom and Dad they could retire to Florida. Whatever story you sold yourself to justify stealing. My mother stood. Sarah, please. Think about what you're doing to this family. No, Mom. Think about what Amanda did. She committed fraud. She forged or misrepresented documents. She collected hundreds of thousands of dollars by claiming to sell property she doesn't own. That's not a family disagreement. That's a crime. I picked up my bag. Looked at Robert, who'd stood silent through all of it. The banker's box of 12 years of faithful documentation sitting on the table like evidence at trial. Gentlemen, I recommend you contact the Connecticut State Police and file a report. Document everything. The communications, the claims Amanda made, the deposits you paid. My attorney is David Park at Morrison & Associates. He'll provide any documentation you need to pursue your claims. I walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. Amanda, you spent 20 years telling everyone I was the failure. The struggling writer. The one who couldn't manage money. the one who needed family guidance. And the whole time I was thriving. I paid off a $680,000 mortgage. I maintain a waterfront property worth $3.2 million. I built a career where I earn $180,000 annually from book royalties alone. I did all of that while you spent your life convinced I was beneath you. But I never corrected you. Because I realized something. Your contempt was the price of my freedom. Every time you dismissed me, I became more invisible. And invisible people can build empires without interference. 6 weeks later, I sat on my dock, feet in the water, laptop balanced on my knees. The evening sun turned the lake copper and gold. Loons called from the far shore, that haunting sound that meant summer. Robert had just left. Thursday maintenance completed. New dock boards installed, $340 at the lumber yard. Gutters cleaned. Lawn mowed. Everything documented, photographed, filed in the banker's box that now lived in my lawyer's office. The state's attorney had filed 4 counts of felony fraud against Amanda. The developers had filed civil suits totaling $1.8 million, deposits plus damages. The Connecticut Real Estate Commission had opened an investigation. Amanda couldn't return the deposits. She'd bought a new Mercedes, $95,000, made a down payment on a beach condo in Cape Cod, $180,000, and distributed $400,000 to family members who were now refusing to return it. Her legal fees were already at $45,000. My parents had stopped calling after I declined to help resolve this situation. They wanted me to drop the criminal complaint, convince the developers to settle, make this go away. I'd said no. They called me vindictive, cruel, unforgiving. I called it consequences. My phone buzzed. A text from my editor. New contract ready. 3-book deal. $450,000 advance. You've earned this. I looked out at the water. The dock I'd rebuilt. The house I'd restored. The 12 years of quiet maintenance, careful documentation, strategic invisibility that had protected everything I'd built. There's a difference between revenge and simply refusing to subsidize your own erasure. Revenge is rage. This was something else. This was the clean mathematics of withdrawal. The simple elegance of stopped payments. I wasn't punishing Amanda. I was just declining to save her from herself. The account is closed. The deposits are gone. The fraud charges are filed. And I am finally, completely, permanently free. The silence feels different now. It feels like peace.